In a distant age, when mighty kingdoms crumbled one after another, and great cities turned into ruins, one name still echoed among the survivors: Aaron, the last true warrior. He was born in a small village on the edge of the northern forests. From childhood, he was trained by his father, one of the finest soldiers in the king's army. Aaron never knew a peaceful life. He grew up surrounded by flames, battles, and destruction. At 16, he stepped into battle for the very first time, standing side by side with his father and older brother. That day, he learned what fear truly meant, and what loss was. He watched as the people he loved fell before his eyes, and found himself alone, clutching a sword he barely trusted his hands to hold. But he survived. And he kept fighting, for 20 long years. With each battle, he lost more: his friends, his brothers, his commanders. Even his village was burned to ash. Somehow, Aaron always survived, until he became more than a man. He became a legend, a warrior who refused to surrender. And now, after decades of endless war, he stood alone against an entire army. Thousands of soldiers gathered in a vast valley, their drums thundering, their swords glinting beneath a gray sky. Aaron stood on a hill overlooking them. His body was heavy with wounds, but his eyes burned with fire. He knew this would likely be his final fight, but he vowed to make it unforgettable. He closed his eyes for a moment, remembering the laughter of friends long gone, the warmth of firesides, and dreams of a future that never came. Then he whispered to himself, "If I don't fight until the very end, then everything we lived for will vanish." He raised his sword high, his tattered cloak whipping in the wind, and shouted, "I will not fall until my last breath. I will be the wall that stands before you, even if I stand alone." The words thundered across the valley as he charged forward. The clash was brutal. The front lines rushed to stop him, but Aaron was faster than they imagined. Blades slashed from every direction, but he blocked one, struck another, and pushed forward with the skill of a man who had spent a lifetime in battle. Each step was a choice between life and death. The enemy could not believe what they were seeing, one man cutting through their ranks like an entire army. His strength was not just in his arms, but in his unbreakable will. Time passed, and his body began to tire. His breath came ragged, his arm trembled under the weight of the sword. Yet every time he thought he would collapse, he heard a voice inside. "Stand, Aaron, if you fall now, everything will be lost." He pressed on. Strike after strike, cry after cry, dust and smoke swirling around him. Minute by minute, Aaron turned from a mortal soldier into a living legend. Night began to fall. Torches lit the battlefield, the sound of swords clashing echoed like a relentless storm. Aaron was still standing, his blade flashing in the firelight. The enemy commander finally stepped forward, a massive man with years of experience etched into his face. He sneered and said, "Aren't you tired? Don't you see you cannot win alone?" Aaron smiled faintly, though his breath was heavy. "I am not alone. Everyone who fell before me fights with me now." They clashed fiercely, blade against blade, sparks flying into the night. Soldiers encircled them, watching in awe as the lone warrior refused to yield. Hours passed, and at last Aaron's steps began to slow. His knees trembled, his sword felt impossibly heavy. Yet he did not fall. He lifted his head toward the sky and said softly, as if speaking to history itself, "I may fall today, but I will never bow." With the last of his strength, he charged once more, his strikes carrying the fury of an entire army within him. Each blow forced the enemy back, as if they faced not a man, but a legend born from fire and steel. At last, with one final cry, Aaron dropped to his knees. But it was not the fall of defeat, it was the fall of a warrior who carried the honor of a people until his final breath. The battlefield fell silent. Even his enemies paused, unable to believe that a single man had stood against them for so long. From that day onward, his name was no longer just spoken as a soldier's. It became a legend passed down through generations. The last warrior, who stood on the edge of death, and refused to bow.